Hi, I'm Leah Martin, and for my Human Impact project, I'm going to be talking about overharvesting. Overharvesting refers to several aspects of human behavior, such as farming, fishing, and hunting. Now, in their own regards, these three things are perfectly acceptable. It's how we as humans provide food for ourselves. But it does become an issue when we do them in such large quantities that it poses a threat to the environment around us. And unfortunately, it's been a problem for a while now, and it's an even bigger crisis today. As with most things troubling the environment, humans are the root of this issue, but in this case specifically, I can link it directly to overpopulation because having a larger population means there are more mouths to feed. So we are fishing more, we are hunting more, and we are harvesting more just to be able to sustain our growing population. This is a myth I wanted to address that underdeveloped nations do not contribute as much, and as I said, it is totally false. This example is specifically about firewood. So people in third world countries will need a lot of firewood to be able to cook all of their food and to keep themselves warm, which is obviously contributing very heavily to deforestation. So while here and in more developed countries like here in Canada, we may have different issues like food waste and plastic pollution, people in third world countries are contributing just as much to the problem. It just might be in a different aspect. So humans have contributed to this specifically, and I'm going to kind of list some adjectives that would describe humans. But I really hope that all of us sitting here watching this are super kind to our environment, and I hope that none of us apply to these adjectives. But unfortunately, this is a crisis going on, and it can be attributed to these adjectives, these descriptions found in some people. So, first is being greedy, taking away the natural habitats of animals so we can have more, more, more. The example I like to use is some people will just bulldoze an entire ecosystem, get rid of the natural habitats of so many animals just so that they have more space to grow more crops because it makes them more money, because they're greedy. They're also lazy, throwing out trash that should be recycled. Even just driving down the street, you can probably see how much litter's on the side of the road, and it doesn't stop there because it ends up in our oceans, which threatens our marine life. And then also, people are selfish, illegally hunting animals for fun or for food, even if it threatens the population of a species as a whole. So, even if a species is endangered, even if there aren't a lot of animals left, people will still go out hunting, even if it's just for fun. They might not even need food, but they will still go hunt these animals, which is increasing the extinction rate dramatically. We are getting rid of species left and right just because people are selfish and hunting for fun, which obviously diminishes biodiversity if we're getting rid of all these species. We've also developed technology to further increase overharvesting in all aspects. So, as if what we were doing wasn't bad enough, we actually developed technologies to help us hurt the environment. Some examples like GPS, underwater mapping, and sonar, these kind of apply specifically to overfishing. But if you think about it, the old fashioned way, you used to have to cast, wait for something to bite your line, and reel it in. And you got one fish. But people were selfish, greedy, and lazy, and they just wanted more. They didn't want to do that much work for fish. So they developed things like underwater mapping and sonar. They can just look at a little screen, see what's happening in the water under them, and they can just take a big net and scoop up a bunch of fish at once. This is a quote talking about how the Industrial Revolution also contributed to this. So, the Industrial Revolution was a time when we were developing a lot of technology super quickly. This probably mostly applies to harvesting because farmers made machines. They were able to build machines that helped them churn up the soil, helped them plant seeds, and helped them harvest at the end of the season. And this made them realize that they actually didn't have to put in so much labor. So they were able to extend their farmland and actually get more crops because they had these machines helping them now. How has this impacted populations, communities, and ecosystems? So, overfishing combined with the introduction of non native species and pollution to various seas threatens the entire ocean ecosystem. And what I mean by the introduction of non native species is that sometimes when humans overfish a certain fish population, they may replace what they took with a different type of fish. So if they overharvest or overfish a certain species of fish, they'll actually replace it with a different species of fish, which obviously is not the same thing. They are just trying to help, trying to replace the stuff in the ocean that they take, but it actually causes more problems because the animals in the area are not used to eating this new species. There's a whole food chain for a reason, and humans disrupting that because we just want more fish is very harmful. So this is an example, sardines and anchovies. We fished a lot of sardines and anchovies, and we saw that their populations were diminishing super quickly because of that. So we replaced these things with bearded goby and jellyfish. You don't have to be a marine biologist to know that these are not the same thing at all. And this case specifically, it ended up hurting the penguins a lot because the penguins were the natural predators of sardines and anchovies. So the penguins were used to eating sardines and anchovies. But now all of a sudden, the sardines and anchovies are almost gone, but all of a sudden they're bearded goby and jellyfish. And obviously, you can't really go from eating anchovies one day to eating jellyfish the next day. It is not the same thing, and it caused a lot of harm in this area. Fish are also now genetically changing to meet the demand humans have for them. We talked about evolution, and so this is basically what's happening with certain species like flounder and cod. They're evolving to reproduce at a younger age. This is the only way to keep their population alive because humans are overfishing them to such an extreme that they need to reproduce at a younger age so that they don't totally go extinct. The give and take of this, though, is that because they reproduce at a younger age, they make weaker and less eggs. And this also goes to something we talked about a lot in this class, which is natural selection and survival of the fittest. So the smaller, weaker offspring are now more likely to be hunted by other fish in the ocean. So it's a whole trickle-down effect, all starting with humans. Because humans overfish flounder and cod, for example, they're evolving to keep their population alive. They're reproducing at a younger age, which means they're making weaker eggs, which means they're getting eaten by predators a lot more. So this is detrimental to our ocean ecosystems, but humans still will not stop. That was kind of all about overfishing, so overhunting is further contributing to the loss of biodiversity. Hunting used to be a way for humans to survive, but after the colonization, especially of North America, there were humans everywhere, which means we were hunting animals to such an extreme that the populations were quickly vanishing. Some examples of this population loss are the North American deer population. It had been nearly wiped out by the end of the 19th century. And then this is a big one. The turkey population plummeted it started at about 10 million and it went down to about 100,000, which is a huge difference. And it's really sad that humans can have such a big impact on a population like that. So, how do we correct the problem? Eldridge has a really good article and lists several options for what we should do to stop this crisis on biodiversity from overharvesting specifically. First is to make and harvest only what can sustain ourselves. So rather than having a surplus of everything just to get more money, we should instead grow only what we need, only what we actually require to stay alive and to feed ourselves, which still obviously is a lot, but it's not as much as we're producing now. Grocery stores throw out so much food waste because the produce goes bad, and that's all just because they were looking for more money. We should also find a balance between sustaining humans and ecosystems. So we shouldn't tell a dirt poor family in a third world country they can't have firewood because it'll cause deforestation. But we should avoid that if anyone is financially stable enough. So it's very unnecessary. We have a lot of luxuries here in more developed countries that are very unnecessary and actually really detrimental to the environment. And if we kind of found this balance between like only giving humans what they actually need, then I think a lot of other species would actually thrive on our planet. Finally, we should develop a plan to stop this overharvesting in all forms. There's very little legislation that actually relates to specifically overharvesting and overfishing and overhunting. And so I think if we developed some more legislation and had some more rules and regulations in place, we could help stop the overharvesting crisis. We need to also enforce the laws that we already have in place. So people should have more severe punishments for hunting off season. So I'm sure you guys have heard like deer season, turkey season. That's when you're allowed to hunt those populations. In order to conserve them, we only allow you to hunt them for a certain season. But unfortunately, people on a daily basis get away with hunting on the off season. It's very rare that people are caught doing this, and even if they are caught, the punishment is not very severe. So people don't really have anything that stops them from going out and doing this. As early as 1696, they had already begun to restrict deer hunting. So this shows you that that was so long ago. It has clearly been an issue for quite a while now, and it's not getting any better. So we need to do something to make it better. Deforestation laws. So companies should be dramatically fined or even shut down for violating these deforestation laws. Big companies, because they have a lot of money, get away with a lot of things. And if we had stricter rules in place, they would have to follow these environmental laws, and it could help stop the problem because big companies are a big contributor to the overharvesting issue. And enforce fishing laws more. This kind of relates to the hunting thing. There's a certain size, a certain amount, and a certain season that you can catch fish. And once again, people get away with breaking these rules probably on a daily basis. Very often, people get away with this. So if we enforced it more and put a little worse punishment on there, I think people would be discouraged from breaking these rules. In conclusion, we can only do so much to stop the selfish, money hungry people of the world. We can do what we can. It's never going to officially go away. Like, it's never 100% going to clear up. But we can slow it down. We can slow down this progress, and we can try and give our ecosystems time to replenish before we continue to fish and hunt. What you can do is you can be mindful of what crops or farmed products, meat, and fish you buy. Don't support companies that don't follow the environmental rules. That's pretty simple. It might be challenging at times, but if you really want to crack down on this and you really want to be helpful in this situation, just be careful of what you're buying and don't support any companies that are breaking all of these rules. These are all my sources. So thank you guys, and I hope that you learned a little bit more about overharvesting.